Hello, people of New World. It's me, Lamani. Happy Wednesday. And today I've got some off meta DPS sort of stuff for you with the Ice Gauntlet. We'll be diving into how you use your Wind Chill Laser Beam as a PvE cooldown that bursts pretty hard with the most optimal setup that you can also use in PvP, but could use some fine tuning. All right, let's walk through the build starting with the Ice Tempest side. We'll be going into Cold Reach just to get some basic attack damage to kind of supplement whatever we're doing outside of the Wind Chill window. We'll then take Energized Critical for our Ice Storms, because if we're at max stamina, drop the Ice Storm, it's got 10% increased critical hit damage. We'll then just max out Ice Storm. It's going to be great for putting extra damage on the target, just a constant persistent dot. We'll then get bonus damage per target in there. It applies the slow component, and then we also get it to proc our Ultimate Chill passive on the left side. So that's going to make Wind Chill do more damage. With Wind Chill, we'll put all the points into it. This is going to tick for 20% weapon damage every 0.2 seconds for 2 seconds baseline. It'll go up to 3 seconds when we put this in. So you are going to get 15 ticks of Wind Chill, typically on a PvE target, and sometimes PvP, depending on what's going on. I've had Wind Chill tick over 500 per, 500 to 600. So if we think about it with a max on 500, and again, it goes higher, I'm getting 15 ticks of 500. That's 7,500 damage in a 3-second window. That's pretty fast, and it's faster than getting 3 light attacks off with my Ice Gauntlet, which will do less damage than that in the Wind Chill window. So you have to consider that. Is it a little weird? Yeah, but does it technically do more? And then you can optimize it with Rens, with powers, with all kinds of stuff. 100%, and Wind Chill's an interesting cooldown. It just has that knockback component. But once they're at the farthest range, we then stop knocking them back. So in the last 2 meters, so at 5 to 7 meters away, they won't get pushed back. And then actually, because we take Chilling Blast, it does also increase that aspect of it by 25%. It is an interesting ability when it comes to PvP. You push people back, sometimes you don't, sometimes you do. Grid is a weird thing. Players walking at you is a weird thing. PvE, the knockback is much more noticeable, but much more controllable and easier to hit. We'll then also go into Heavy Freeze just for that free root component, and we'll take Critical Frost, and then we'll get our ultimate. We don't need any of the mana things here because when we go Unbroken Chill on our weapon, it gives us plenty of mana back that we never have to worry, comboed with the dodge rolls. Basically, the idea of this side is put down Ice Storm, Wind Chill them in the Ice Storm, sit there and waddle around while you're blasting them. On the builder side, we'll take Blocking Stamina because this is just insane and it's a nice little defensive save. We'll take Empowered Frost because we have to, and then we'll go into all the points in Entombed. We're going to get Cleansing Entombed, we'll have Fortify after it, and it's just a good little save in case anybody jumps on our faces in PvP. Also in PvE, you could opt to not take Entomb in PvE and go something like Ice Pylon or go something like Ice Shower just for extra output potential. That's up to you. And then take Refreshing Frost and Defiant Freeze. We then get some good cooldown reset. We then also get Fortify every time we choose to use our Wind Chill. So if we combo this with things like Refreshing Move, it's going to be a lot of extra Fortify. Or even if we're sitting in Refreshing Frost, a lot of good cooldown reduction there. So basically the gist of it is hit them with your lights and heavies, then throw down Storm, then hit Wind Chill and just start blasting them around. And then rinse and repeat. That's pretty much it, and it's got crazy output. All right, now here's what I use for the VG side. We're going to be using all of the damage and healing and crit and cooldown reduction passives on the Annihilation side. That's pretty much it, and then just max out Scream, max out Oblivion. Scream's going to be great for setting up clumps, as well as getting a little bit of fortifying yourself when you're in the thick of it, and then Oblivion is going to give you that increased damage. It's going to help give you some stand back and things, and then it is also going to remove buffs. We do take Void Color here, because if you're up in people's faces, it's free damage. It's also a nice little bit of passive healing. On the Decay side, basically just max out Orb and then take Refreshing Harvest. Refreshing Harvest is kind of something you can use in between pulls, in between clumps, and get some really sick cooldown reduction for free without having to hit anybody. So you'll be using Orb, you'll double pop it to get a double Ren, get all kinds of dot stacks going, and then you have Refreshing Harvest over there for the little bit of back pocket CDR. Okay, important things to mention about perks before we get into gearing. With Wind Chill, it cannot crit, so Keen and Vicious don't do anything. Keenly Jagged won't apply another dot. It also does not proc Rune Glass gems. It also does not get to roll Thwarting Strikes because you can't roll Thwarting Strikes on an IAG. I tested it. So pretty much anything with crit, anything with grit related things, you can't get it to work with the Wind Chill setup. So keep that in mind before we start talking about perks. All right, let's talk gearing. So loadout weight, I go light for damage, but this could work in a medium IGVG meta setup. If you wanted to go this and just try to push people off of points and just spray them around, I highly don't recommend it because that's kind of counterintuitive to the medium IGVG setup as sort of a CC bot. So keep that in mind before you make your team mad. Other than that, the gear perks we're looking for on armor, like PvP, typical ones like Resil, Refreshing, anything like that. The only thing that we truly need on gear as an ability perk is going to be our Ice Storm perk, so Unending Thaw. That's it, because we're not going to put it on our gauntlet because we actually end up with more output from Wind Chill as opposed to putting that on our gear. Additional ability perks that you may want on your gear are going to be things Putrefying Screen, Nullifying Oblivion, and Diminishing Orb if you don't get them on your VG. So consider those options as well when you're trying to use gear for this. Again, it's going to be most likely a very similar setup to any IGVG that you'd be using right now, just swapping out the IG and putting Unending Thaw on a piece of gear. Same goes with PvE. If you're a mutator runner, you know what you should be looking for, like wards and things like that. You all know what you need on jewelry. It's gonna be health, stamina recovery, at least on neck. I like to use Champion's Amulet, but then the ring is important. In PvP, we need Invigorated Punishment for extra damage, and if you can get an Invigorated Punishment, Ice Damage, and Hardy Ring, that'd be pretty bis, but I wouldn't go out buying that just for this build. In PvE, we really need to just have ice damage because, again, we can't crit with this. For earring, refreshing toast, all that stuff, whatever works for you. All right, weapon bis. When we're looking at the IG, I would put in a Malachite because using an opal, if you roll and then use this, stamina regenerates during Wind Chill. Your perks, you're going to want Keenly Empowered Refreshing Move and Unbroken Chill. So we want the damage modifier. We'll use Keenly Empowered because Ice Storm will proc it. And then once we get that, then we'll use our Wind Chill and then Refreshing Move to get things back online. For our Void Gauntlet, I just use Blackguards. You can use any ability perk that you'd want on here. And then you could go into things like anti-heal. You could go for dot damage. You could go for pretty much anything to get some crit. It'd be important on the VG, whatever you want in your personal opinion. But I think Blackguards is a solid option. For our gem, right now, it doesn't work with the old T2 Aquamarine Ice setup. So you can use an Opal with some extra dot damage. For the attributes, I went 300 int, 200 con. That's pretty much your only option in PvP, but in PvE, you could probably definitely get away with like the 100 to 150 con and just sit there and blast targets, putting in the gem that is the best against the enemy you're fighting. And I'm curious to see what you could do in this in a mutator setup. So if anybody's going to try it, please let me know and leave a comment down below on what kind of damage they can do. In general, though, 300, 200 is what I recommend for PvP, and then just put the rest into int. The rotation for PvE and PvP is basically the same. You want to get whatever Ren debuffs you can up on them, whatever power's going. So we can double tick with our Orb on VG, put down Oblivion, and then we want to put them in Ice Storm so that we can proc our ultimate, and then you just laser beam away. It's so simple. You just sit there and then you're going to fill in with lights and heavies until you get your beam back up and then beam repeat and beam repeat and beam repeat. I'll be honest. What do I think about the build? It's interesting. It's different. And ultimately it's memey. It's the sort of wacky Wednesday build that, you know, some of you like to play. I think it's fun. I think it's different. Do I think it's meta? Absolutely not. But do I think it's kind of a meme to walk up to somebody and blast them with a laser beam for a big chunk of health when they're not expecting it? Yeah. So have fun with it. I hope you enjoy it. I know it's not the king of all builds, but it's a little bit off meta for you who would enjoy it. Please optimize it and do whatever you want with it. Hit the links down below, and as always, if you need anything, please let me know. But thank you for watching, thank you for listening, and thank you to every single one of you beautiful people for being you. Peace.